Alright guys, I'm going to show some of what we work on with all of the dogs in regards to yielding their body with a little bit of pressure from our hands. I might also use the leash a little bit to help guide his head and his shoulders to lay down on his side. But it's not about pulling and forcing them down to the ground. I want him to learn to relax his body parts in the direction that I'm suggesting when I apply pressure with my hands, so I can get him into a more calm and relaxed position for when I do go to do his nails, or even just check and see, you know, if he's got a cut on his paw or something. It can be very helpful. So for this exercise specifically, I'm just going to show you guys, I'm going to put him into a sit and a down. When he's laying, what I'm going to do is apply pressure basically kind of behind the rib cage, before the hip area. That he's already laying on his side. But what I'm going to do if he's laying down, which is how they normally start, in an upright position, is try to encourage with a little bit of pressure for him to relax his hip in one direction or the other. Now what you guys might not be able to see clearly on camera is even if he doesn't flop his hip over, if he's pushing against me and he relaxes a little bit, even if it's not dramatic for you guys to see visually, I can feel as I'm pushing, if he relaxes those muscles, I'm going to relax the pressure that I'm applying to him. So it might not seem like it, but I'll also try to remember to mark good so you guys verbally can tell. Granger, come here, buddy. I know you're getting impatient. And I'm going to do the same thing with his shoulders. So even if he doesn't flop all the way over on his side, if I get some relaxation where he's yielding a little bit to the pressure that I'm applying on his shoulder to try and get him to lay over on his side the rest of the way, then I'm going to relax my hand pressure and the influence that I'm trying to give to him. Ready, buddy? Ready? So I'm going to move him so that way he's going to be upright. Let's go. Here, bud. I'm going to start in an SIT. Sit. Put him into a down. Hi. Nope. Sit. Good. Down. Good. A little bit of pressure here. You can see he's not really interested in relaxing that hip. So good. He relaxed his muscles a little bit there. You guys might not have been able to see that super clearly. Good. I don't have to take my hand all the way away from there. I might be doing that just to try and emphasize to show you guys. But I am going to go from pushing to relaxing that pressure that I'm applying to him. So some dogs, my first step is the sit and the down. You know how we started with him. That was a big deal in and of itself, just getting him to sit and lay down. Applying pressure, obviously we have to have enough of a relationship where he's not going to be uncomfortable with me touching and handling him. So for some dogs who are really nervous about nails or handling in general, I might just work on sit and down. Then I could potentially start to work a little bit on them relaxing their hip. The next step is going to be a little bit of pressure on his shoulder. I can also, I don't know if you can see from that angle, use the leash a little bit to encourage him to bring his head down as I'm applying pressure to this shoulder. But there again, it's suggestive. He relaxes, everything's going to relax until eventually he starts to go all the way into the position that I want him to. That's when I would, the next step, depending on how far along the dog is, start to do a little bit of petting, massaging, and handling. Good boy. Good job, buddy. Now the big part that I find is super important, a lot of people skip or don't realize, is this one particular exercise that I've worked on so far to get to this stage with him, I can repeat over and over and over again before I actually do his nails. So what I'm going to show you guys is I'm going to get him up and I'm going to do that again. You can do it on either side. Some dogs are stronger on one side than the other in regards to how much they resist laying down. So if you want to work both sides of the dog, if you don't want to be picky about it, which is completely fine, if they have a side they lay down easier on, you can try to always encourage them to lay in that direction. But we do like a little bit of balance and making sure that he allows us to have both sides conditioned for a little bit of relaxing and giving to pressure. So I'm going to invite him up. Let's go. Good boy. I'll turn him around. Here, buddy. And we'll do the other side. This is his not as good side. So this side, he's a little more resistant to give to pressure. Boy, down. Good. A little pressure here. Now if I feel muscle relaxing, or if he flops his hip over, then that pressure is going to release. So there was a little relaxation right there. Good. Good. Nice job, buddy. Very good. And you can take moments to pause in between each individual portion of what I'm showing you. So I can stop when I get a hip relaxation over towards this direction and pet him. Or I could get him up, put him back, and then just do the hip part over and over and over again. Same thing, I'm going to use the leash a little bit on this side. When I apply a little bit of pressure here, depending on the individual dog, it does help to guide them to lay over on their side. Once they start to understand this process, though, a lot of the dogs we get in, all I have to do is just lay them down and put a little pressure, and they all automatically start to flop over. So I've got a little leash pressure, shoulder pressure, good boy. And he is getting used to this, obviously, because we've been practicing. So I'm going to point out what he just did right there. One of the things I'm particularly strict about when we're doing these types of exercises is shenanigans. Depending on if the dog's uncomfortable or if they're just being goofy or if they're trying to be a little avoidant and defensive, they might try getting away with things like rolling towards you, showing you their belly, mouthing at you, pawing at you, things like that. Those things I will discourage, and I will keep working. What I don't want is to lay him down and be like, oh, who's a good boy, who's a good boy, who's a good puppy, and get him all riled up. I want him to be super calm. So if he does try to paw at me or mouth at me or get fidgety and roll towards me, I'm just going to relax him back onto his side. Whether I have to put his shoulder back down or if he tries to lift his back legs up, put those back down, and I can apply a little bit of pressure to help him lay his head back down. But remember, it's not a forced thing. So if I'm having trouble with that, that's the step that you're going to get stuck on until you work past that. He still tries to do that occasionally, but for the most part, it's just once or twice, and then he stops doing that as we move on to the other steps. And then obviously the next steps on this side as well would be just making sure he stays decently relaxed and calm while I'm touching and petting all over, messing with his feet. And then we would begin, as he progressed through these steps, to introduce the Dremel itself. A lot of dogs, once we start to introduce the Dremel, are getting to a point where they're really calm and relaxed in general about this whole process, so they're not as worried about the Dremel as people think they would be. Boy, I'm going to get him up and I'm going to do another side just so I can show you guys that. Let's go. Good boy. Here, buddy. Yeah, you got to turn all the way around. Sit. Good. Down. Good. A little bit of pressure here. So he flopped that direction. I'm going to make him get up. Come on, buddy. Let's go. And I'm going to do it again because I'm particular about I want him to yield toward me. Boy. Down. Good. That's much better. Good boy. Good. Now I have to watch for it. You can see he's thinking about doing some of that flirty, pushy stuff. So I just put a little bit of pressure here, and you can see he kind of stopped doing it right away because he knew I was just going to encourage him to go back into a more neutral laying down position. And I wasn't going to let him be like trying to lick my face or pawing at me or mouthing at my hands or trying to use belly rubs against me so that he could get out of this exercise. A lot of dogs will do that, you guys. Good boy. Good. Very nice, puppy. Good job. But you can see what I'm going for is the ability to influence him to lay down in the direction that I want with his different body parts yielding to a little bit of pressure, and also the demeanor. You can see he's pretty relaxed. He's got all of his legs down, his tail is pretty neutral, his eyes are pretty soft, his ears are back, he's not super tense, and he's pretty confident and comfortable with what my expectation is when I have him lay down and I start messing with his feet and then progressively working towards doing his nails. Good boy. Good job, buddy. If everybody works on this, your nail trimming stuff will get better. This is a big part of how we get the dogs in a lot of the pictures and videos everybody comments on to be so calm. It's less about the tools and more about the mindset and the dog being relaxed for us to touch and handle their body.